Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is the Senior Vice President for Corporate Affairs at Philex Mining Corporation and was formerly Press Secretary and Presidential Spokesman during the Estrada administration. He also sits on the board of several private corporations and is a member of the Board of Trustees of several charitable and civic organizations. Having served the public in various capacities under 3 Philippine presidents, he either sat on the board or acted as legal consultant in several government corporations, namely Manila International Airport Authority, National Food Authority, GSIS, Department of Transportation and Communication, and the Food Terminal Incorporated. He was recently elected member of the Board of Governors of Manila Overseas Press Club, as he has also been a media personality. He has anchored the news and hosted talk shows on Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 9, Channel 13, and ANC. He co-hosted the award-winning public affairs show, I'm Bisaya. Sorry, I can't say these things in Tagalog very well. Iyo ang Katarungan. Well, so is he, actually. Justice is Yours. That's the name of the show. A free legal advice and advocacy program which was on Channel 13. He was also president and CEO at the Manila office of Weber Shandwick, a global public relations and advocacy firm with a presence in all markets. His roster of clients included top multinationals and top local companies. He also handled several political clients and projects for the Philippine government. Also recently, he has given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the British Council and British Alumni Association as he had pursued graduate studies in the UK. He earned his Masters of International Economic Law from the London School of Economics and Political Science on a full scholarship grant from the British government. He was also accepted to the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University in Boston, Massachusetts. He earned his Bachelor of Laws from the University of the Philippines. He started his legal career at the prestigious Accra or Angara Abela Concepcion Regala and Cruz law offices, where he was a member of the litigation group. He handled several high-profile criminal and corporate cases during that stint. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present our guest speaker today, Attorney Michael Toledo, Senior Vice President for Corporate Affairs at Philex Mining Corporation.
Thank you very much, Leo. After that very generous introduction, I would like to formally ask you to be my formal introducer in all my other speaking engagements. I can assure you that Philex can pay for the fee. Ambassador Delia Albert, Mr. John Risedale, TVI, of course, Leo Dominguez, a good friend. You know, I've known Leo for quite some time. We were both, or at least I was, a practicing attorney years ago. And he was quite impressive in court, but I did not know that he could even do better as an MC and as a master of ceremonies. Why don't we give him a round of applause? Yeah. Alam mo, Leo, this place also reminds me of so many things, but it was not my wedding. And perhaps I can discuss it with you privately, what this place reminds me of. Also, I would like to also acknowledge Mr. Peter Wallace. Peter's here. Are you here, Peter? Oh, there you are, of course. A defender of the mining industry. We are both active members of the Management Association of the Philippines, and really glad to know that you're on our side, Peter. And we read your article at the Inquirer the other day, and we can assure you that we at the industry would take heed to what you have said in that article in one of my favorite newspapers, by the way, the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Of course, the event organizer, Kevin.
Let me read one thing to you that I dug up just recently that I think might help the industry. It's in the Bible.
Okay.
Deuteronomy 8:9. a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where the rocks and iron and you can dig copper out of the hills. It's in the Bible.
Thank you very
God
much, Peter.
said so.
And of course, Mr. Graham Deegan, resource advisor, and my good friend, a respected mining lawyer, among other things, former senior partner of CSIP Salazar Law Firm, and now Associate Director of First Pacific, Attorney Marilyn Aquino. Let's give her a warm round of applause, please. And of course, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and our distinguished friends from the media, maraming salamat po for being here. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. It isn't easy being good. Hindi naman na ayaw kong maging bumait, pero di ko kaya. No, it is about doing good and doing it well through hell and high water, and no pun intended there. It's about having your heart in the right place, and in the end, it will be all worth it. In the end, we will all be measured not by the profit we made, but how we have made our profits. When our chairman and CEO, MVP, as we fondly called him, asked me to join him at Philex Mining, it was a no-brainer for me. Knowing that I will be working with one of the most respected business tycoons or leaders in the country, knowing that I'll be working for a true visionary and a true patriot. But I also said yes for the simple reason that I knew for a fact that Philex had its heart in the right place. It was doing good and doing it quite well. For long, Philex preferred to work hard and keep its nose down. For over 50 years, it kept doing good and went about quietly from establishing environmental standards, public infrastructure, education, and health programs as early as the 1960s to reforestation and livelihood programs in the 1970s. From its resiliency through the 1980s and the 1990s, Philex preferred to work and reap awards. With its nose down, quietly, humbly, it went about its work. Quietly, humbly, it delivered to the community's economic and social benefits far more than what was expected from Philex. But as the most revered Spanish writer, Federico Garcia Lorca, once said, to burn with desire and keep quiet about it is the greatest punishment we can bring on ourselves. Yes, the company has been burning with desire for growth, expansion, and with it, the empowerment and upliftment of communities where it operates. So why change the status quo? What is wrong with being quiet? Why indeed? First, we all know that we are at a time when public opinion of the mining industry as a whole is poor. We have been flagellated for environmental costs that far outweigh the benefits, for leaving the land unusable for agriculture, for the decline of wildlife and plant species, water pollution, and at times even human rights. False prophets who judge us through foreign-funded massive disinformation campaign were relentless in their efforts to destroy the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, mining has never been sexy, but I think that will all change when Ambassador Delia Albert speaks soon in Bangkok. And according to her, instead of the topic lasting footprint of mining, it will be lasting footprint in mining. Let's give a round of applause to Ambassador Albert here, she has also been in the forefront in this struggle of ours. You know, to explain Gosan and sulfides, one compares it with the layers of a cake. To explain subsidence, we resort to the analogies of a rice box. To explain how a penstock works, which by the way, I took a crash course on penstocks, we compared it with a gutter of a roof. How do you actually explain how a block cave system works? But just because it is difficult to explain doesn't mean that it can never be sexy. In fact, its beauty is actually in its complexity. And you just need to come up with your right story and put it out there. The second reason why we should is because pressure groups have consistently targeted the mining sector at local and international levels, challenging the industry's legitimacy to the point of controlling news desks and respected broadcasters for their agenda. I don't think I need to say more. However, let me cite a personal experience of the day that the mining forum opened. While having breakfast, I was pleasantly surprised to read that I was the subject of an editorial from one of the leading newspapers of the country, a newspaper that I still highly respect, of course. In that editorial, I was described as being disingenuous. I have to admit, it's been a while since I've encountered that word. So I had to check the dictionary and find out what it actually meant. And lo, to my not exactly surprise, it meant dishonest, deceitful. I was also described as being or lacking grace. And at the same time also reacting quickly by using legal doctrines as a knee-jerk reactions to accusations being hurled upon Felix. I was surprised. Well, for one thing, the fact that I was made a topic of an editorial is, I guess, something that I can put on my record. It's not often that one is subject to such an editorial from one of the leading newspapers. But at the same time, I was quite surprised because it's a call for the respect of the rule of law. It's a call for the respect of due process, for notice and hearing. Is it being disingenuous? Is it more being disingenuous if, let's say, a cabinet member or a cabinet secretary would, despite the ongoing investigation still being conducted on a certain firm or company, would make announcements prematurely to the media using trial by publicity, alleged fines that have to be paid, without even the finding of any liability yet, without even showing us a copy of the alleged document that would say that we were liable for certain fines, for violations of certain provisions of the law. In my opinion, and in my book, ladies and gentlemen, that is being more disingenuous. Is it lacking grace to call for a respect of the rule of law? I don't think so. And if it is so, then I'd gladly be called disingenuous. The third reason why we should, ladies and gentlemen, is the financial sector is increasingly focusing on mining companies from both risk management and social responsibility perspectives. No doubt, standards on international transparency on extractive industries has remarkably advanced over the last decade. It is because of this increased focus on the industry that regulations have also tightened. While the EO, or Executive Order 79, implementing rules, and the IRR, or implementing rules and regulations, emphasize the primacy of the Constitution and national laws as against local laws. Unfortunately, however, a number of its provisions themselves violate the Constitution, not to mention the rights of the members of the mining industry. Philex believes that there is no cause that is so great that can justify a disregard for the rule of law and the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution, or the principles upon which democratic government is founded, such as the separation of governmental powers. Fourth, media today is far more different than what it was 20 years ago. Communications technology has had the most impact on the public relations. 20 years ago, a BlackBerry was something you put on top of a pie or in the pie. Twitter was a very tiny speaker installed in your car, and the iPhone was a complete sentence. Today, the sophistication of communication and gadgets are just as borderless as their geographical reach. Anyone with an idea can be the media nowadays, and the speed of sharing content has been unprecedented. That's why perhaps we have the cybercrime law, which was recently passed, quite controversial also, and I'm sure that there will be some amendments to that too. Clearly, there's a need really to come up with better legal advice. It's a troubling and dangerous thing, but it is also a wonderful thing because now we have many more channels to reach our audiences. The added dimension is that now messages can be made and shared with a more personal touch. In the case of Philex, the company's strengths lie in its rich history and the fact that it is the only pioneering mining company that has continuously operated through the highs and lows of metal prices and production over the last 3 decades. Throw in a comprehensive CSR program with clear-cut prescriptions for environmental management and community engagement, and you have a story of responsible mining, which we shared with the public through tri-media advertising, institutionalized mine tours, publicities, events, and of course, public speeches. We launched There's Life in Mining campaign. So, as the doctor earlier said, can there be life after mining? We say, there is already life in mining. And we launched this in September last year to make the public understand what is responsible mining by demonstrating how we leave the land far better off than when it was found, how we enable progress through public infrastructure, and how we build communities through livelihood, health, education, and capacity building that will enable them to sustain life beyond the end of the mine life. We complemented this with a publicity program to inform, educate, and inspire. These are stories about our projects on the ground and about the people who grew up in the mines, who rose through the ranks in Philex from junior mining engineer to become its president and COO. And I'm talking about our hardworking president, Mr. Yules Austin. He's not here, but why don't we give him also a warm round of applause? Beyond information, which they see on TV and read in the papers, we also wanted our stakeholders to experience and see for themselves that we walk what we talk. On top of the mine tours in Padcal, in Silangan and Bulawan, we went further and engaged the Philippine press photographers through our Impressions campaign in December last year, when we brought photojournalists to our Padcal mine for a photo walk. Along the same line, we engaged the youth through essay writing and art competition among the elementary and high school students from our schools in Padcal last month. And on track for the second half of this year are the website, in-house magazines, and newsletters. And when we return to operations, and I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that we will return to operations, a second round of There's Life in Mining advertising campaign where we will show real people who have directly benefited from their life with Philex. The communication objective was clear: better public appreciation and understanding of mining and its environmental and social impact. The key messages were consistent. Mining, if done responsibly, can give life. Just as our environment team has restored forest cover on over 2,000 hectares of barren land in Padcal and rehabilitated our project sites in Bulawan and Sibutad into the ecotourism parks that they are today. Mining, if done responsibly, can change lives for the better, as 14,000 graduates from Padcal Mines Elementary School can attest, and as our own president and COO, Yules Austin, has seen in his 28 years in Philex. Mining, if done responsibly, is a boon to the country's national development program. Our strategy was clear, and we go by Sun Tzu when he said, "To win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the highest skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the highest skill." To paraphrase this in 3 words, it is engage, engage, and engage. And this has been the corporate mantra of Philex. Even at the height of the incident that happened in Padcal, we engaged. We did not hide. We confronted and addressed the issues. We immediately informed our stakeholders. We immediately informed government. We immediately informed media. All things considered, the results of our communications programs were quite encouraging, as we would like to believe that we contributed to improvements on awareness and perception about the industry. A recent SWS survey has shown that more Filipinos now believe that large-scale mining does not, and I repeat, does not necessarily result in environmental destruction. This is a significant 14-point increase from 24% in August last year to 33% in May this year. In terms of government action about the industry, more people, from 9% last year to 14% this year, agreed to the promotion of large-scale mining in the country based on existing laws, while the number of people who want to stop large-scale mining and amend existing laws have decreased. The price of greatness is responsibility. Needless to say, the same messages resonated when the onslaught of 2 typhoons in July resulted in the darkest night Padcal has ever seen. Our mine site in Padcal has a system for the maintenance and monitoring of tailings ponds. This standard guidelines and procedure included procedures for the construction and maintenance of the ponds, dikes, and benches to ensure their integrity, to protect against their erosion, and to guarantee the impoundings of the tailings within the pond. Procedures also cover those meant to ensure the integrity and strength of all concreting works done for the tailings pond, as well as those for the inspection and maintenance of the tailings pond and its associated structures. At the time a spill occurred on its tailings pond 3, which is now very famous, historically unprecedented heavy rains generated by Typhoon Hiner and Ferdy at the site reached 331.80 millimeters. This exceeded by almost 100 millimeters the 50-year rainfall record for Padcal of only 234.5 millimeters for a single day. At 12 midnight of August 1, Wednesday, we voluntarily, without waiting for government to tell us, stopped mine and milling operations for the purpose of conducting a full inspection of the tailings pond and the surrounding areas in order to assess the conditions of the dam, of the pond or the dam. Initial inspection showed that water and sediment are being discharged from one of the 2 underground tunnels that drain clean water from the penstock in the tailings pond. Immediately, Philex exerted maximum effort to address the accidental discharge and has mobilized the requisite resources in this regard. 15 hours after the incident, or about 3 in the afternoon of August 2, the company reported the matter to the Mines and Geosciences Board, or Bureau, or the MGB. At 8 p.m. of that day, the MGB issued a cease operation order. On the same day, we informed and coordinated with Benguet Governor Nestor Fongwan as well as the municipal boards of Itogon and Tuba. The sinkhole recurred, unfortunately, necessitating a command conference at the Philex headquarters with video link to the mine site. Additional remediation measures were decided upon at the said command conference. Among the plans included that we report the incident the next day to our employees, shareholders, and the general public. So plans were set up for a press conference at 8:30 in the morning of August 3. There, our President and CEO, Engineer Yules Austin, announced that the tailings have been contained. We could have opted to keep quiet about this and just cancel the press conference and any plans for announcement. But that would have gone against our value of doing the right thing. The first order of the day was to inform our employees. After managers on site and the head office were briefed, each of our employees received a letter from the chairman rallying them, and I quote, "We will get this done. We will get back on our feet, stronger and better than before. Let's show our country what a responsible mining company can do." After the employees, we filed a disclosure to the BSC and issued an official statement about the event. And just like our engineers, miners, and community relations teams that have been on the job 24/7 since day one, my team at the Corporate Affairs Office have been relentless in ensuring that potential public fears allayed and detractors are denied the opportunity to take advantage of this unfortunate incident. Externally, we had granted our interview, or rather one interview after another. Internally, we disclosed to our employees, investors, stock markets, suppliers, and banks about the accident and what steps are being undertaken to mitigate the impact. Philex Mining, environmental experts, and government regulators have announced since the voluntary suspension of operations at Padcal Mine on August 1 that the discharge was non-toxic, as the chemical compounds used in milling operations were biodegradable and that it did not result to any injury or fatality. An independent science and technology laboratory said that harmful chemicals have not been detected in fish samples taken from the waters near the Padcal Mine. In the report, the Sentro ng Pagsusuri, Pagsasanay at Pangangasiwang Pagagham at Teknolohiya Corporation, or Centrotech, said there was no detection of metals nor chemicals in the tilapia fish it analyzed early this month. So don't believe those stories about mutant tilapias, which came out in the papers recently. They must be related to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know. So don't believe them, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is disinformation running riot, so to speak. Metallurgists at Philex Mining said that unlike a number of small-scale and illegal miners who have operated in Benguet, the company has not used mercury or any harmful amounts of chemicals in its operations at the Padcal Mine. Unfortunately, tailings seepage occurred on September 6 and a few more on September 8. With the safety of about 40 households at the downstream Balog Creek and Agno River, our engineers, geologists, and miners resumed remediation measures to contain the discharge and protect the Agno River despite continuing bad weather. Thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to report that we had been able to plug the sinkhole since then and condemn the affected tunnel. This week, we had started pouring of concrete to completely seal the affected tunnel and have decided to build new tailings ponds. As we have said before, our commitment is not to operate until the integrity of the tailings storage facility is fully ensured. In the meantime, we will work to bring families affected by the spillage at Padcal to, if not better than, their previous status. This proposal, or rather proposals, shall engage all stakeholders for the short, medium, and long-term plans and programs to ensure a sustainable social and economic development. We have assured and will continue to assure the households, farmers, and fishermen affected by the discharge of our commitment to assist and respond quickly to their needs, placing them among our priorities in our rehabilitation and reforestation efforts following the accident in Padcal. Already, we have provided immediate assistance to about 45 families living near the mine. We have also engaged them in various cleanup and rehabilitation drive on Balog Creek and the area where it converges with the Agno River. Local residents have been helping the Philex team, composed mostly of employee volunteers, in creating trails of the rugged terrain leading to the Balog Creek, providing easy access for the cleaners. Also, tram lines and silt traps have been created to hold equipment and to better clean up the affected waterway. The Social Development Program, which is in line with Philex Mining's commitment to social and environmental policy, would be the social aspect of the ecosystems approach that the company is eyeing for its cleanup and rehabilitation drive on Balog Creek. Earlier, we have also announced that we are planning to implement various measures on the ecosystems approach under the program called Integrated River Basin Management, or IRBM, focusing on aquatic, terrestrial, water resources management with regard to the cleanup and reforestation or restoration of the Balog Creek. Some aspects of the short-term plan for the social and economic development of the affected areas involve also identifying the affected households and putting in place the participation of other stakeholders in the process, while those in the medium plan includes sustaining this partnership as well as capability building trainings for livelihood programs. The long-term plan, on the other hand, emphasizes, among other things, the capacity building for the maintenance of the restored ecosystem, and in preparation for this, for making this a place where people may also engage in leisure activities such as hiking, biking, all upon mine closure. Ladies and gentlemen, worse than a fire, tornado, or a terrorist attack, the loss of reputation can literally kill an organization. Philex, with a reputation that has been built over the last 54 years, will keep on meeting the challenges and the work through the obstacles that come along. Our vision is to be a world-class natural resource company. That, in itself, is a reason to demonstrate our commitment to being a good corporate citizen and being a responsible mining corporation. Let me assure everyone this afternoon, on behalf of our chairman, the board of directors, the officers, the men and women toiling in Philex now, let us assure you that Philex will rise from this accident bigger, stronger, and better. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you very much, Mike. When we invited Philex to speak before us at one of our every other month luncheons, we didn't realize that we would actually be giving you an opportunity to speak on this unfortunate accident that happened sometime in between our invitation and your speech today. So you've just talked about and demonstrated to us that even the best and the most responsible of mining companies could experience what you experienced in Padcal. And I think this is a lesson to many here, many of us who are also responsible mining companies, about what nature could bring to you and what you really need to do to remediate whatever issues arise from these unfortunate disasters. I'm now going to open the floor to questions. We have about 10 minutes, and what I'd like to do is encourage you, please, to stand up, come to a microphone, give us your name and your affiliation before you ask your question. So Mike will be here for your questions. And I have any question on the floor right now? None? Well, let me start. Mike, I've talked to people out there, and there seems to be a confusion about Philex's refusal to pay the fine that's being imposed by the MGB, and Philex's undertaking, as you've expressed now, to repair the damage, your commitment to assist, in your own words here, respond to the needs of the community, rehabilitation, reforestation, and cleanup. It seems that there's an impression out there when Philex makes a statement that it does not want to pay the fines, that it wants to walk away from this responsibility. But what I'm hearing from you is very different. So could you please explain to us what exactly that position is?
Thank you very much, Leo, for giving me that opportunity, or giving us that opportunity. First of all, when we received the letter from the MGB about, I believe, last week, we read in that letter the following. First, they made a finding that Philex had in its practice a standard operating procedure, a standard job procedure, or protocols when it comes to the maintenance and operation of the tailings pond. Number two, they made a categorical finding that Philex officials or those in charge of maintaining the integrity or maintenance of the pond were not remiss in their obligations in following the standard operating procedures protocols. Ergo, they made a finding that there was no liability or negligence on the part of Philex. Therefore, it goes against the grain of fines or penalties. Payment of penalties or fines would mean an acceptance of liability or negligence on the part of Philex. There was none. And it is not just us speaking or telling the public or telling the government that there was no negligence, but it is already the monitoring group, the team, the task force, tasked to conduct an investigation which lasted for more than a month. It was a very in-depth investigation. Masuring investigasyon po ang ginawa ng mga taga-MGB at nakita nila na walang pakasala po ang Philex. That's why it would be incongruous for us to pay the fines. However, let me reiterate and let me repeat. As far as remedial measures are concerned, as far as payment, for example, for those who were affected by this unfortunate accident, Philex has the capacity, the capability, and the willingness to face their obligations and commitments under the law. And that stands.
Thank you, Mike. So it's good to hear that instead of paying $1 billion to the government, you've actually set aside, we don't know how much, but up to how much it will take to clean it up and to remediate the problems around the communities. So, any other questions of Philex or Mike from the floor? Yes, Peter.
I'll just make a comment, Mike. My wife grew up in Baguio, went to St. Teresa's College, which is an exclusive school up there, and every morning a bus would come in from Philex with girls for the school and a bus from Benguet with girls for the school. There was no bus from anywhere else, only the two mining companies, which shows the good that mining was doing in those communities. If I remember rightly, you said, and I've read, that this spill, there was no toxic effects. So what's this fine all about? If it's not caused any deaths, not caused any accidents, not caused any toxic destruction of the river, and you're going to rehabilitate the people that were affected, what on earth is this government talking about?
As they've cited, of course, provisions of the Mining Act, which provides for the payment of certain fines for something like 50 pesos per metric ton that is supposed to be discharged. But again, let me say that this was caused by force majeure. And although there has been some initial statements from the MGB that the provisions, or rather the concept or doctrine of force majeure does not apply, of course, we strongly disagree. But of course, we'll be submitting our reply or comment to the letter of the MGB very soon. And I'm sure that the media will definitely cover that.
Is this on? Yes. Hello. Steve Hill from Philippine Resources magazine. In your presentation, you indicated that the needle is moving in terms of public opinion, both as to the economic benefits and the dangers of mining. Could you suggest why you think that is happening, which battles are being won, and which battles are still to be won?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that mining companies now, especially Philex, have decided to go toe-to-toe with those who are trying to disinform our population, our citizens, about the benefits of mining. Because for the longest time, most mining companies would rather keep quiet about it. But for the longest time, those in the anti-mining position, so to speak, they have been very vocal, vociferous in their disinformation campaign. And we just had to put a stop to that. So my opinion, in our opinion, and on the basis of the surveys that were recently conducted, and I think a survey should be due anytime soon, especially after that mining forum, wherein no less than MVP spoke in that very, shall we say, colorful exchange. It brought to the fore, to a lot of people, what the mining issue was all about. For the longest time, if you ask anyone, especially the youth, who by the way comprises about 60% of our demographics, that's why the target of our information campaign, especially it should be the campaign of the industry or the chamber, is to target the 60% demographic, which is the youth. We're talking about people 22 or 23 years and below. If you ask them then, they would always say, mining, the automatic reaction would have been, it destroys the environment. That's usually the case. They would hardly talk about the benefits of mining. So the fact that that forum happened, it raised, at least, the first thing, it raised awareness. Now they are more willing to listen to both sides. Whereas there was a time that they were inundated by false information, or at least just one side of the story. Now they're able to access the other side of the story. And we strongly believe that if we continue to do so, if we continue to provide the right information, telling them about what mining can do if done responsibly, then I think that the battle, though difficult, we can slowly win this battle.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Albert Garcia, the chairman of Philippine Australia Business Council. I also happen to be a shareholder of Felix. The market is obviously penalizing you. And obviously what you just said I would have assumed would have offset any negativities as far as the market's concerned. What is Felix doing about the downtrend in your market prices?
Well, to answer your question, Albert, well, as I mentioned earlier, we have been very transparent and very engaging. All queries with respect to what has happened in our mining site in Padcal, we have been very honest and forward in answering all issues and all questions. With respect to the issues on the EO and the IRR, we already also mentioned clearly what our stand is. So while admittedly, of course, certain admissions somehow dampen interest in the value of the stock, or rather may have affected, or definitely has affected the value of the stock, like our admission that we are losing roughly 30 to 4 million pesos a day by not operating. We still believe that transparency is best, and we would like to do the right thing here, which is to engage and to inform the public of what's actually happening and not to hide. The normal reaction, especially from lawyers, and I am a lawyer myself, and I read an article, I think, in the International Herald Tribune, if I'm not mistaken, or the Financial Times, wherein the first thing that lawyers do in a mining incident is to make sure that they practically hide the incident. But not in this case. We wanted to engage right away.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Leo. Leo, this is really addressed to you. Speaking here and listening here, we're all singing to the choir. I think everybody in the room is convinced or has been converted to the value of responsible mining. Have we tried, I think I've asked this question a long, long time ago to you or somebody else, have we tried to get the opposition here to give them the floor so they can argue their case based on information rather than ignorance? Or are they too scared to face an audience like this, a knowledgeable audience?
I think that, Kevin, you want to answer that question, but I'll say something after you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. The Mining Luncheon is an open forum, platform, for anybody who wishes to attend. Leo will announce our next speaker shortly, and the topic is about responsible mining. So if anybody would like to invite any of these non-mining people, anti-mining people, they're more than welcome, as long as they respect everybody in the room and pay for lunch. There's a good. Thank you. Thank you.
I won't add to that. I think it's clear. And any other questions? Yes.
Good afternoon, Attorney. I'm Charlie Ang of Tiger Machinery. My interesting question is, do you have a target date for Felix to go back to operation?
Well, of course, we'd like to operate as soon as possible, but our disclosures show that we're looking at something like perhaps a conservative of 6 months and perhaps about 12 months. Hopefully, it can be shorter than that. We've already started, of course, tailing span 4 and perhaps 5, but what we are focusing now, our priority is, of course, to remediate, rehabilitate the tailing span 3, and if that is totally condemned, then we proceed immediately with 4 and 5. We would like to operate, of course, as soon as we can.
It sounds to me like it's a buy. It is a buy. Anyway, hold on and add to your shares. Okay. Yes, Ambassador Albert.
Just a rejoinder to Brian. I didn't know you were here. Were you, Brian? About inviting other sectors of society in this dialogue. Precisely, we have that Diwata group. When we had our dialogue with the women, indigenous women from Mindanao, we specifically targeted NGOs that had anti-mining sentiments. And we also succeeded to invite the chairman of the NCIP. I talked to her and I said, of course, the National Commission on Indigenous People. And I said to her, please come and listen because this will be a good balance to what you have been hearing from the other side. And indeed she came, and she came with other anti-mining ladies. Anyway, for the future meeting that we're having in Baguio, we're organizing a dialogue at the University of Baguio, where we have invited 2,000 students. Many of them are anti-mining, but many of them are also children of the mining companies. And so there will be quite, I think, an interesting dialogue. And as Mike said, we should target the younger people. Sometimes it's impossible to talk to people who have made up their minds. So we're opening this possibility in Baguio on November 15, where we have also invited the Foreign Minister of South Africa to convey to the public what mining has done to the economy and to the people of South Africa. And she has agreed to come. And we're using the women's card to improve the dialogue between these different groups. And I hope when you come for PMSEA, you could attend the meeting. We have 2 meetings in Baguio. One is meeting with the local officials of the Bliss area. The Bliss is the Cordillera, Baguio, La Trinidad, Itogon, Suyok, Tuba, and Tublay. And they're all coming to sit down and talk to people who are in the industry and people who are against the industry. So we're doing it in a learned dialogue, is how we call the approach that we have taken in Diwata. So ladies who are here, you're most welcome to join us to continue this dialogue, and we are focusing, as you said, Mike, on the young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On that note, our time is up. I'd like, if there's one last question, I'll be happy to entertain that. Yes.
Mike, perhaps in relation to the biblical reading that Peter read a while ago, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines conducted its own parallel fact-finding on the Felix spill. I was wondering if you could have a reaction to that. I think one of the findings there was that the spill was massive and that way back in 2010, Felix should have done something about it. How would you react to that report?
You sound like a reporter from Channel 2, Nicky. No, but a very good question. And in fact, I think two nights ago, I was interviewed in Bandila or TV Patrol, Channel 2. regarding that issue. At that time, we have not yet really received a copy of the so-called report, but I did see the portion of their recommendations. And one, I have to say that clearly this study is not a study that is based on clear empirical data. Of course, we have yet to see who the experts that conducted this supposed study were, and who were the people involved, and what was the baseline data, and a lot of other technical issues. But suffice it to say that they mentioned a couple of things. For example, I recall they mentioned that the water is toxic, or the seepage was toxic. Again, let me repeat, and I will not get tired on saying this over and over again, that the water was not toxic. It's biodegradable, and this was determined not only by our own water experts and consultants and metallurgists from Philex, but also by an independent organization, a reputable one. Empirical data was made and empirical study was done. This was also made mention in very clear, unequivocal terms by no less than the DNR, the MGB, and the MEB. The government regulators themselves said on TV, radio, and print that the water is non-toxic, the seepage was non-toxic and biodegradable. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, in a number of interviews, categorically said that the water is safe. In fact, you can eat the fish that is found in the rivers or the lakes or areas near where the spill occurred. So clearly, it goes against all the studies that were previously made. On the other points, of course, we will address them as they come along. They did try to enter our premises, and let me share that with you in the spirit of transparency again. They did try to enter our premises, and this could also happen, perhaps, hopefully not, to other members of the industry, saying that they wanted to conduct their own investigation. But if that was really the intention, all they have to do is go to the MGB, the DNR, the MEB. They are the government agencies tasked with doing the investigation. They conducted an investigation since August 1, or let's say from August 2 up to perhaps September 24, 25. That's more than a month of interviews, investigations, whatever you call it. All the documents, data, empirical evidence are there. If they are really sincere in finding out the truth, all they could have done was go to the relevant government agency. The government agencies, under pain of law, cannot, of course, withhold this information. That's already a law. You're entitled under the Constitution, and there's a Right of Information Act. You must provide that information. So if the desire was to really ferret out the truth, they could have just inquired. But perhaps because they knew that the results would be something that they would not want to see. That's the sad thing with having an agenda. In fact, today, again, in the spirit of transparency, I understand that my good friend, for a long time we've been, shall we say, coordinating with each other, Ted Filon, is in Padcal right now for his Sunday, or rather Saturday, weekly program. I respect Ted. He's a very good journalist, and he's also a friend. But of course, again, we had to decline entry for the simple reason that it is not safe. It's really not safe. In fact, not everyone can go to the site. Only those that are authorized can really go to the site where construction is being done. Number two, you might just delay the remediation and remedial measures being done. You will just take away time from people that are supposed to do their job to guide you. And again, let me say that if they really want information, first-hand information, all they have to do is interview the MGB, get the records from the MGB, the EMB, and the DNR. It's all there. There is no need to enter our premises because it is not yet safe. But when the time comes, when we are in operation again, let me assure you that we will welcome the media to Philex Mining. It's our showcase, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me to thank Attorney Mike Toledo for his very, very good speech presentation today, an informative one.